And we're recording. So tonight's guest is Kane Sherwin. Tonight's guest is Shane Kerwin of Personal Survival Solutions. And I'll tell you what, folks, you're in for a treat tonight because the dude is as legit as they come. Um, just a quick rundown: uh, 82nd Airborne, 24 years in the U.S. Army. Um, uh, did some work over in Korea, outside the DMZ or in the DMZ. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Global war on terrorism, medical sergeant, scout sniper, man, you name it, he's done it, and it's freaking awesome. And so he is the founder and owner of Personal Survival Solutions um, in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee. It's just south of Fort Campbell, really, really close to Nashville. And Shane, man, just thanks a bunch for coming on today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Like I said, I'm humbled and honored all at the same time. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, man.
Right on. Can you tell us a little bit about, your service and just give us a feel for some of the cool stuff that you did while you were in?
Sure, man. Sure. Yeah. So like you said, I did just about 24 years. It's just easier to round up. It was so close. 24 years in the Army. Retired in 2018. 16 of those years was at 5th Special Forces Group up at Fort Campbell. I was one of those guys that I got there and I was very lucky. I never left. Um, Before that, I was an infantry guy. I was in the 82nd, and when I first came in, I came in like '93, and I was going through basic training actually when Mogadishu, Somalia was going on, and so, but I actually missed that stuff, and I went to Korea. My first duty assignment, which was kind of cool because my dad was in the army and he spent all his time in Korea, and so it was neat kind of going there initially. And I got picked up for the DMZ Scout Platoon. And so what that was is actually, I think the only reason I was picked is because they had the tour guides that were up there also, and I'm tall. And so they wanted like tall, squared away guys. And I never did go to the tour guides, but I went to the Scout Platoon. And essentially, what we were doing is um, we were the only Americans to do at the time to do counter infiltration patrols against the North Koreans that were trying to infiltrate South. And so it really kind of set things up and framed my military career because, although we had a small area, we were out doing patrols and, every once in a while they would try and get south and we would kind of interdict that and they would run back across the border and but we had live ammo in that and so when I left Korea and I went to airborne school and I went to the 82nd, I ended up getting picked for another scout platoon, recce platoon, and so I did that and it was always what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in small reconnaissance teams or and while I was in Korea, I was introduced to some sniper operations, and it was the first time that I met any special forces guys because First Special Forces Group was over there. They did just a 5-day mobile training team, sniper training, and I was getting ready to leave and actually weasel my way into it uh, by doing some good used car salesman stuff to my platoon leader and that. And then as I went to the 82nd and did scout platoon stuff, I also did sniper operations. And but like I said, Korea kind of framed it because we would go out to the field and there was peacetime pretty much then. There wasn't really anything going on. And we'd be doing field exercises and everybody else was kind of like, well, that's just our buddies from the other battalion down there. It's not real, opposing forces or that. And I was like, well, I just came from where, if we screwed up, something potentially bad could happen and us create an international incident. And so I always continued to think like that. Um, and so that was great. I loved it. I had a short break in service. I got out, and about 15 months later, I went back in, and I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go back in the army." And he said, "You never left. So when do you leave?" And I went back to the same battalion. I went back to the 82nd, same battalion. uh, back to the same scout platoon, the same scout team, and really the only thing that had changed was I went from being the senior scout to the assistant team leader. And so I did that for a little bit, and then finally went to selection and assessment, and this was probably about 99. And then got selected, was very fortunate there, got selected, and went to the Q course, Special Force Qualification course in 2000, and I got picked to be a attempt to be a medic. And so that's about a 2.5 year program. By the time you go through the qualification course, and the way that was set up then with 3 phases, and then you hit language school, and you did the SEER school, the survival school, and all that. And so 2.5 years later, I finally got through, and got stationed at Fifth Special Forces Group, where got my team, and that was like September of '02. And I walked in the door, and they said, "Oh, we're going to send you to our in-house sniper course," which at the time, fifth group sniper course was 6 weeks long. And so we went down there, or I went down there and did that, and was successful. And they were saying, if you're successful, we're going to send you down to Fort Bragg to challenge the level 1 course. And I was so new that I thought I was going to shoot some sort of sniper competition or something. And come to find out, they used to do this challenge course where you went down and you did all the gated events. It was kind of an all or nothing, and 10 days worth. And if you were successful through it, then you got a level 1. Uh, it was SODIC at the time, Special Operations Target Interdiction course. Now it's SIFSIC, the Special Forces Sniper course. But you got a certificate as a level 1 sniper. And that course is about 3 months long, a little bit longer. And I was very lucky, made it through that. And we took some Christmas vacation, some Christmas leave, and then came into the team room in like January of '03. And they said, pack up all your stuff. We're going to Iraq, to Kuwait, and then subsequently Iraq to invade. And so, because I had missed Afghanistan, when 9/11 happened, I was doing actually my medical rotations up at Fort Campbell at the hospital there.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, by the time I got to the unit, though, they'd already been to Afghanistan and back. And so we geared up for Iraq. Did a kind of a unique mission set during the invasion, with an agency that it was kind of neat. And but yeah, I got 3 all expense paid trips to Iraq for the invasion. What ended up being OIF 1, OIF 2, and then OIF 3. And then we were really busy. And so I figured it up, and I was gone about 10 months every year. And so I needed a bit of a break. And so I started talking to some folks and looking into our sniper program as an instructor. And then they had never had a medic. And uh, all the stars aligned, and I ended up going over there, and I was a sniper instructor, uh, in addition to being a medic. And I got to be just a regular instructor, a senior cadre, and I actually ran the course for a while, and was very fortunate. Had some ideas, and we extended the course to 7 weeks. We married up with our advanced urban combat guys, the Safawic guys, and then did full mission profiles at the end of it. And so I spent a lot of time down there. And then the Army, because I thought I was going to retire from there, decided, well, we're going to promote you and see if we can make you stay a little bit longer. And I did everything that you're not supposed to do to be promoted. And like, I didn't have a new photo, I didn't verify my records. I'm like, they're just going to throw my stuff in the trash can. And well, lo and behold, I made the promotion list. And so I went operational again, and I took company operations, uh, went back to Kuwait, then ran company operations for what became known as Train and Equip Syria in the Kingdom of Jordan. And so I got to help set that up, and then pick my team. Went back there again and did Train and Equip Syria. Did a trip to Lebanon as a team sergeant, or operations sergeant, and then I was getting long in the tooth. It was getting towards the end. I didn't have any aspirations, and so I put my retirement in. Military wise, I think I've got like 11 deployments overseas overall. 8 of them will be considered in the global war on terror. And as if I didn't have enough on my plate, back about '07, I started shifting over to the armed citizen side. I got asked to maybe teach a little bit, and so because I was still training, I was going and taking classes and paying for it in addition to the military stuff, and so then I had the opportunity to do some teaching. So I did some teaching with rifle and carbine, medical stuff mainly, and then I kept doing that kind of throughout, and picked up some people that wanted to do it with me, and had a have a training group out in Kansas that I think we're on our 7th year, I believe, going out there. And this is before I ever had PSS, personal survival solutions. And um, as I was getting ready to retire, through the encouragement of some friends of mine, Craig Douglas of ShivWorks, the late Paul Gomez, and a few other people are like, "You should probably do this, man." And so I set up, as I was transitioning out, retiring, personal survival solutions. And as I was retiring, uh, we really jumped at it out the gate. Barrett Firearms approached us. I'd known the Barrett family for a while, knew their director of operations, and he's like, "Hey, would you guys be interested in doing, or you be interested in doing, the long range 50 cal stuff?" And so, we jumped on that and said, "Yeah, we'd like to do that." Uh, a old sergeant major of mine approached me. He has a crisis resolution and um, intervention type of company, and they do a variety of things. And he asked if I'd be interested in doing some work with like active shooter protocols, some medical stuff, and some crisis intervention things. So I was doing that, and then because I didn't have enough on my plate, uh, Royal Range USA in Nashville reached out and wanted to know if I wanted to teach part time. And so I went down there and started teaching a little bit, and then helping them work with their program, and built up their program with the help of some other instructors and the director of training and that, and ended up being kind of the senior instructor. And then one day they introduced me as the training manager, and I thought it was just kind of a joke. And then I got introduced as that again, and I was like, okay, I don't really know what that means, but I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And so I was doing that, and that was taking up a lot of my time. Um, so the business got put on the back burner a little bit, except for some private training groups and that. Barrett restructured, and we had a good parting with them, but they wanted to do everything internally. I kind of walked away from the crisis resolution company for a while, although I am back contracting with them periodically for some things, medical interventions and the such. And then because I was putting in like 50 plus hours at Royal Range, and it was 2 hours of driving time back and forth. And that was never going to be a forever thing. It was a great training opportunity, or working opportunity, and we parted with them. And so now for about a little bit more than 2 years, we've been doing PSS full time.
Man, what a story. Dadgum. Wow. So, uh, on behalf of everybody that, is listening to this podcast and watching on YouTube, I just want to say thanks a bunch for, the incredible service that you've given to this country. It's incredible. So,
Thank you very much.
and that you continue to serve. It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
So,
And like we were talking about before, we started recording, in that as I was transitioning out, was I'm like, I've served my whole life. I want to continue to do that. In what capacity can I do that? And that's how PSS was born. And I wanted to serve the general public that was out there, just armed citizens or gun owners, helping them down step down the path of becoming an armed citizen, and that particular demographic of, hey, somebody that wants to be able to protect themselves, protect the people they care about, be a good member of their community, and that's what I kind of structured the company around.
Right on. Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that's I think that's the hope of any training company.
Yep.
So, or at least I would hope to think so.
Yeah, yeah, me
So,
too. Me too.
yeah. So we touched on something a little bit. You refer to folks as armed citizens, and you'd recently did a podcast with Kent Lapp, and
Mhm.
that was a really good podcast.
Thank you.
Listeners and viewers, go and take a look at Kent Lapp. Okay, the dude's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so during that podcast, they touched a little bit on calling folks armed citizens, and I think that there's something there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I did the same thing. Like when I left the Marine Corps, I would call them civilians. Until a buddy of mine came up to me and he said, "Hey, people don't like being called that." And I was
Learn
like,
that real
"Really?"
quick.
Yeah. So, when you call people civilians, it's almost like they're not on your level yet. It's
Yep.
a little condescending. And
Yeah.
when you call them armed citizens, it's letting them know, it's telling them that, we see you as an equal and we understand in you your right to the Second Amendment to keep and bear
Mhm.
arms, and that right should not be infringed. And so, you know,
Absolutely.
of course, that comes with a little bit of responsibility, and just the simple fact that they accept the responsibility and they take it gracefully, I think that's something to be respected. So,
Yeah, I completely agree, and I've kinda broken it down now when I'm in the beginning of classes, especially, the pistol class. I do a about an hour and a half mindset lecture, and spectrum of awareness and, building an individual protective system, and, I said, I kinda break it down, I don't wanna say levels, but I said, all of us are citizens. We're American citizens. It's our right to freedom in that. And I said, and then you go and you purchase a firearm, whatever type of firearm that is. And I said, now you're a citizen that's a gun owner. And it's- now they're sitting in the classroom with us. And I said, you've taken the step down the path to now becoming a responsible gun owner, but an armed citizen. I said, you're taking that responsibility seriously. You are coming to get training to be able to protect yourself, be able to protect people you care about, be a good member of your community, be a responsible armed citizen. And I said that that's important, and it is a hefty responsibility. But I said you have just differentiated yourself, from the citizenry and regular gun owners to now you are becoming an armed citizen, and I think that's an important distinction, and I think it uh, adds gravity to what they're doing, and they understand uh, what that responsibility is because it's a huge responsibility.
yeah, that responsibility is gigantic. So,
Yep,
um, it's just a ton of liability that comes along with it. Um,
absolutely.
so, the training track that I've gone down so far, and I think a lot of the viewers have also gone down this training track. Uh, we've basically gotten the gist of how to put holes in things that are a medium distance away.
Sure.
As far as like lining up sights and pressing triggers, I think most of the viewers of this program and the
Hmm.
listeners are kind of there.
Yeah.
Um, they may even be far enough along to where they know how to draw from the holster safely and to safely
Hmm.
return to the holster.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot more to it though, that isn't there? Like
Yeah.
there's medical and there's awareness and there's
Yep.
a lot, isn't there?
There is. Like I tell people, the shooting part's easy. I mean, it really is. We emphasize, as I said, what we're trying to do when we get people to us is um, build an individual protective system around you and your uniqueness. And it's a principles and concept based system with an outcome, which means success. And, those tactically viable principles and concepts, as well as I do, they were all invented about 125 years ago. And, we stand on the shoulders of giants that have come before us. And hopefully, we can take those things and impart them onto people. But there's a variety of ways of doing things. And for us, as long as you fall within those parameters of principles and concepts, tactically viable principles and concepts, and you meet an end state, we don't really care how you get there. We're going to show you several different ways, but it's really just the fundamentals. And you said it. No matter what you're doing, even if you're applying the fundamentals in advanced application or applied tactics, if you will, to gain the advantage, uh, it comes down to aligning the sights or the putting the dot, superimposing the dot where you want the bolt to go, uh, pressing or pulling the trigger straight to the rear and letting the gun do its thing. Uh, the shooting part is relatively easy and straightforward. It's all the complexity that goes into things after a while. A visitor.
Yeah. Little guy, he needs to go to bed.
uh, I closed the door to the office because my dogs would be trying to get into the computer screen. But you're right. And one of the things that we try and do is after we establish that base, and it's just a base foundation, then we start adding realistic context or contextual based things in realism, so that people understand that, hey, we're just not doing a drill. Even for example, you said drawing from the holster. Yeah, we're going to do a skill set in isolation or a micro drill to learn how the mechanics of drawing from the holster and presenting the gun, but this is how it fits into context. And you have to understand, number one, us as armed citizens, a preamble has to be met before the gun can come out. Means, intent, and ability, or means, ability, intent, and jeopardy, or means, ability, opportunity, whatever verbiage you want to say. But that preamble has to be met. And even if it's met, that doesn't mean that we've created opportunity yet to get the gun out, and it could potentially be a bad timing issue, like Craig Douglas likes to say. So we have to do things, apply tactics to create space, to give us some distance that equates to time, that creates an opportunity in order for us to be able to do the action that we're going to do. And there's that complexity, the ability that our gun handling needs to be to a level of automaticity, unconscious competence, that we don't have to think about it, freeing up our forebrain to critically think and problem solve. And that's a big difference between going out and just shooting on recreationally and becoming an armed citizen. uh, the mechanics are the same, but it's all that complexity of the world out there that we have to muddle through. And I'm very upfront with people when we start, and in the mindset lecture, of we are, as armed citizens, we are in a initiative deficient state, because we don't get to choose the time and the place when something's going to happen. We have to create opportunity where we can time it correctly to get the gun out if it's warranted, to be able to stop the threat and protect ourselves and the people that we care about. We have to understand the things to turn the tables, if you will, and go from that initiative deficient state, or on the what I say on the bottom of the cycle of initiative, and the bad folks are on the top of the cycle, and we need to invert that and switch it up by applied tactics and various things that we do. And that's where the complexity comes in, and where training, I think, is important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. Um, the track that I'm on right now, and I think a lot of listeners are, not really so much how to press the trigger and stuff like that. Really, just the whole holistic aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I noticed that in your background, there's more than a little bit of medical uh, application in your background. Is it? And when I see something like that on an instructor's resume, when I see that, it makes me kind of think of like John Murphy or like
Mhm.
Caleb Causey or
Yeah.
some of these other instructors that will mix a little bit of medical into the class.
Yeah.
Is that something that you do or something that you offer?
It is absolutely. We have two medical classes. Actually, they're coming up at the end of this month. Guardian Medical Essentials 1, Guardian Medical Essentials 2, which is it's geared towards the armed citizen and building that individual protective system, because that's one of the things that we talk about building a comprehensive system, is that uh, you are way more likely to use your medical skills than you are your gunfighting skills. And we just know that statistically. And, anybody can be driving down the road and roll up on a car accident and, be that first responder, you know. And I taught a class here recently and just got an email a few weeks ago. A private UAV company down in the Atlanta area, their technicians are out in the middle of nowhere, and if they have a catastrophic um, incident with their launching systems, they don't have any, healthcare facilities or any treatment facilities anywhere close. So we went down and did, an abbreviated version of our Guardian Medical Essentials and got them kind of squared away. And then I get this email, and it was one of the guys that was in the class, and he had actually passed out in the class. We had a small medical emergency in the class. Uh, just it wasn't pictures or anything or the sights of blood or injuries, but it was the thought of, and he would vagal himself out and make himself pass out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's so we got him. He was squared away. He got, he came around. We made sure that he was okay. Me and another SF medic who's retired now that helps me out sometimes, and I give him a shout out, John Hayduck. Um, and so we finished teaching the class. He was all good. Well, he sends me an email a couple weeks ago. Said he was driving home and came across a catastrophic car accident, and there was multiple casualties. There was a couple other citizens that were first responders, and he come up on a guy who his foot was actually pretty much tore off, and so he was bleeding out. Uh, he said he remembered the principles and concepts that we taught in the class, and he didn't have a medical kit with him. Excuse me. But he was able to dig through either his vehicle or the vehicle that was involved in the accident, and he found a ratchet strap and applied a tourniquet and saved the guy's life. And
that
he
is
just wanted
awesome.
to let me know that, and which I thought was really cool. And so I asked for number one to share the story if he was okay with that, and then number two is mailing address. And so we sent him one of our medical kits that North American Rescue makes. So I was like, now you will have that for all times. But it shows the importance of it. A lot of times folks, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love to shoot just like everybody else. Um, but if we think of this contextually and how armed encounters happen, bullets and pointy things go both ways. And there's a very good chance that we could be injured or somebody that we care about is injured or just somebody that is in the area. And so having that ability to treat trauma in addition to knowing how to inflict trauma is as important, if not more important, when we build a comprehensive system.
It's super important. Super
Yeah.
important. So, so I've been asking people about, okay, who is this Shane Kerwin guy? And the the main thing that I get back is the way that you treat your students. You see, there's a lot of folks that have a similar background, military, law enforcement, SF, stuff like that, right?
Sure.
And so what happens there is when you see them in class, when they get that instructor tab, um, they end up becoming very heavy-handed and very stern, um, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It depends on the context. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but the thing that keeps bringing folks to protective survival solutions is that there's a manner of dignity and respect that you get to your students, and so I'm interested to hear what your philosophy is, the way you see them, and the way you handle it.
Yeah. So one of the first things we tell people when they come into class after we do introductions and all that, now we're starting to get to know people, and we'll ask them, uh, give us a little bit of your background, who you are, why are you here? What do you want to get out of the class? What are kind of your goals and aspirations? Um, and so we get to know them, we get to know other folks. Uh, but then I'll say, we just want you to understand that now that you are here, you are part of our family, part of our tribe. And, as we continue down this path, uh, I had this conversation recently when we were in Murfreesboro at the outpost. And I said, I think when we start, I like the moniker of instructor, but as they continue down the path and people have that foundation that's set, I really look at myself more as like a coach or a mentor to kind of help guide. And but as we go through this process and people start building their system, we try to look at them individually, and because things that I can do, somebody else might not be able to do, and so I try to give them various things that fall within principles and concepts, and I tell them, I'm like, I'm going to show you these things, and I want you to pick one then and put it into your system. I said, because your individual protective system is unique to you, and as we get older and we have physical limitations, or and we lose flexibility, mobility, or we're a female, and because the demographics that we have in classes, spans had the youngest 10 years old at the time, and we've had people up to 70s and getting close to 80, and everybody in between. And so we want to make it the system around their uniqueness, but uh, so we try and look at everybody individually and figure out what do they need uh, to make this system, and to be able to understand the principles and concepts, retain them, and then be able to recall them in a time of need when they're in an adrenalized state in a violent encounter. And then in addition to that, they really have become our family and friends. We go out to dinner at least once, during a weekend of classes, if not each night. Uh, we get together. We have stuff at the house where people have come over, and we've done training days at the house, or just barbecues, or if somebody in the group or tribe needs help, we've gone and done lumberjack days at people's houses because they've had trees go down with storms, and uh, we're trying to build this community. And I guess, overall is we care about the folks that are coming here, and we're honored that they, have sought us out, paid their hard-earned money, taken their time, uh, given, or we had then a responsibility of training them for something that could be life altering. And we take that responsibility extremely, extremely seriously. uh, and I always say in class, I'm like, this is a deadly serious thing that we're talking about, and it's a big responsibility. But then on the other hand, we also, nobody says we can't have a good time doing it. And so yeah, I think it's important. It's what makes us a little bit different. And I will check in with students all the time. I'll send them a message or give them a call. Or um, we'd had a friend of mine, Abner Miranda, who has a Tier One Citizen YouTube channel. Uh, I've known Abner for a number of years. He's come up. He reached out here last year and has come up and taken some of the classes, and he has also uh, videoed them and professionally edited them and put them out on his YouTube channel. But when he was coming up, I said, Abner, you're coming up. I said, come to the house, man. Just come stay at the house. And he relayed to me, he was like, you offered me to stay at your house. I know you've done it with other people. He goes, nobody's ever offered that. And he said, you go out to eat with your students. He goes, I can count on one hand the amount of instructors that go out to eat with their students and keep in touch with them and that. And he's like, you send out, because we send out a lot of pre-reading material or associated articles with whatever coursework we're doing. Um, and he's like, that's very rare also. And we're like, well, we're trying to help and develop people. And if they find themselves in a situation where their life or their loved one's lives depend on it, we want them to be able to handle that and go home to the people that care about them at the end of the day. And so uh, it their family, most definitely.
Man, that is awesome. That's awesome. I that's yeah, your friend said that that was rare. Yeah, he's right. There's not a whole lot of people that will make that kind of connection. Um because I think the goal is different. Instead of building a community or building a a unique defensive system,
Mm.
or a uh, really kind of, I mean, I think some folks are making better shooters, but they're not really making better defenders, better armed citizens, better family members. So I
Sure.
think that's really needed. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that I really appreciate is the fact that you're open to different techniques. You see a lot of folks that are like, "Hey, you know, this is my way or the highway."
Yeah.
Instead, you basically have. I, I, I think it'd be fair to call it a principle, and
Hmm.
there's multiple techniques in order for you to achieve that principle.
Yeah.
And I think that's needed as well because, not everybody can get the grip that I can get or that you can get.
Sure.
So,
Well, I think us, as instructors, if we preach or say, hey, it's, this way, or this is our way, or one of the things that I disliked, because, my wife and I still, we take a lot of training. Still, we try to be, forever students. And it hasn't happened recently because I'm very selective with who we train with. Um, but when I would go to a class and somebody would say, "Hey, this is our way. Try it for today or this weekend. If you don't like it, discard it." And I think that does the student base a disservice, because now, like, military law enforcement, they're picked for certain attributes and they want commonality, across their system, so that they know everybody is the same. But like I said earlier, if you look at the demographics of one of our classes, uh, you've got everything, and not one single technique works for them. So, if we kind of stay within a principles and concepts and meet an end state, uh, we can give them different techniques and let them kind of build that individual system. And then one of the other things that we've done here recently, and I've been doing it for a while, but I'm putting a lot more emphasis on it, is and this is kind of my definition of it. I know it's not probably perfect, but like in the military, or when I first got out, when I was using my putting my curriculums together, it was more an outcome based training. And the military does that quite a bit. We have to hit certain checklists and then and meet this goal, regardless of what level people got to. Because we've got to hit this laundry list of things, and now you are trained. And you know, it wasn't bad, and it wasn't so much as you know, we're going to hit all these things regardless of where you're at, and make this outcome or this goal. But I started really looking at performance based training instead, and where you still have a goal at the end, but we don't really worry about it. And since I've done that, uh, and so I've taken things and I've reworked how I do outlines, and I put it more into modules, because I was up training with Reed Hendrick up at Valor Ridge, and that's how he did it. And he and I talked quite a bit. And shout out to Reed. He's doing good things up there, and we highly recommend him. Um, but I was like, I'm gonna steal that, and and give you credit, of course, and whoever because I know he got a lot of things from Paul Howell and that, and but I think it's important to give credit. But with the modules, we're way more performance based now, and I think it's working out a lot better with the students. Is that, hey, we have this module of whatever it is, maybe the initial where we're teaching the ready positions, we're teaching draw stroke, and that's all in say this first module, and we have it broken down with exercise where they get dry fire and continue repetitions, and we add on with live fire. And but we don't leave that module until everybody can do those tasks. And when we get to a next module, it's kind of the same thing. So, we want to bring everybody up to a certain level. And when we can get them to that level, then we add a little bit more, because everything that we do is building blocks. So, going back to, like we said earlier, with it just being the basics, uh, as we continue to strengthen those building blocks, we start adding more realistic context to it and adding other things. And so it's really nothing different, but we're just adding another piece, adding another piece. But we want people to be able to get it before we go on to the next thing. And if we don't get through every module in that particular day or whatever. It's something that we can pull out, and it's like, okay, that's the first thing that we're going to address when we're reinforcing the things that we did before tomorrow, or in the next class. And so I think that's important to work with the students that way, so that they have something uh, when they leave at the end of the day. And I will ask them this. The question I ask everybody at the end, at the conclusion of every class, is, do you feel better prepared to protect yourself now leaving the class than when you walked in this morning? And that's important to me. Unfortunately, everybody has said yes, we do. Because I'm like, we could walk out of here, and the skill sets that you worked and solidified during our time together, on your way home, you stop for gas, and you could be involved in an armed altercation. And we want to make sure that you leave with something that you can protect yourself. And when you come back to us, we're just going to add more to it, so you'll be better prepared.
That sounds outstanding. It sounds like a lot of fun too.
It is a lot of fun. We have a good time. We definitely have a good time.
So, um, a lot of the stuff I hear about personal survival solutions is it has a lot to do with your rifle curriculum as well. Do you do stuff with rifle, and what is your training methodology there?
We do. So I think by last count, my wife said we're either have 21 or 22 classes on in the course curriculum. Now, with that, there is linkage to all the different series. Um, so we have an introduction to protective pistol, which is kind of a novice class that starts them on the path to then go into the covert protective pistol series. Including that class, there is 6 pistol classes. We have 6 rifle carbine classes, starting off with close range rifle carbine, and there's 4 of those, and then going into intermediate distance and scout marksman, which we kind of hit all facets with rifle. Uh, and then, across the board, we have the medical. We have a 3-day armed protective measures class, which is around the armed citizen and pistol, where they get a little bit of everything. Some good pistol work, mindset awareness, managing unknown contacts, some rudimentary combatives, OC spray. We also have a separate OC spray class. We do medical, vehicle tactics and defense, and some home defense, all wrapped up in that 3-day class. Um, but the rifle curriculum, we've been doing quite a bit of that, and I like it. I like them all. People ask me, "What's your favorite class to teach?" And I can honestly say it's whatever class I'm teaching right now, because they all have different aspects that I enjoy. But I like the rifle because I've spent a lot of time on that. Um, and so uh, when I was looking at to put the curriculum together, I started looking at what else was out there and what I've taken, and and I know that there's probably somebody doing something similar to us, but for the most part, what I saw was either people doing short range, like 25 yards and in, so CQB pistol distances with a rifle, which is important. Don't get me wrong. Or if you're gonna employ that rifle or PCC, for home defense or that, and we have to be able to build the mechanics. But that's all they really spent their time on. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it seemed like it was 100 yards and beyond, and nothing really putting it all in between. Uh, so I developed the short range rifle carbine, which is 50 yards and in. And there's 3 of those, and they just build off of each other. And like I said, there's a lot of linkage and commonality between the curriculums whether it's a pistol or a carbine, shotgun, or even long rifle. Um, but we do that, and then the short range culminates with an applied tactics. So adding more complexity and realistic context uh, to the short range area, and then in intermediate we go from 50 to 200 yards and start stretching our legs a little bit. And then scout marksman is 50 out to 400 yards. And we frame it in context of, right now, the way things are, you are not going to be able, number one, identify that they're a threat at 300 or 400 yards, let alone be able to articulate why are they a threat. at that distance. Um, but the confidence it inspires on people when they can have a good grouping out at 300 and 400 yards, and then I go to them, well, how's a 50-yard shot, or a 25-yard headshot standing offhand, and they're like, well, that's easy because I just nailed 400. So that's a real fun series. That's a good time.
Man, that sounds like a good time. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we're coming right up on it. Let's see. I think we covered just about everything. I just I'm looking up at the clock and right now we're at 45 minutes. Man, it just kind of flew by, Shane.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
So, do you have any future projects coming up or anything you're working on right now?
yeah. So my the curriculum is always in a constant state of flux, if you will, because I want it to be as recent, relevant, and realistic as possible, and to make sense. So I'm always reworking that. Um, so I've been doing that as we change some things with the pistol curriculum and the carbine curriculum and the long gun. We just got done with some long range stuff, but that's always a constant thing. I got some things next year that I want to do. Um, I've had a lot of interest in the long range, and so we might expand the long range a little bit next year. I would like to with the pistol series, because we do some scenarios in the 3-day arm protective measure, force on force, stress inoculate scenario based stuff. But I'd like to do a full class of that. Um, that's going to take some time because I want them to be very good, realistic scenarios that armed citizens could encounter. I need very good role players that know how to play the roles, and I will probably reach out to some people that are very experts in it and solicit their help. Hopefully, um, some things in the near future. We will be Steve Moses of uh, PTG is hosting us in October at the CCW Safe Range out there in Oklahoma at the 50 range. Hopefully, I got all that right. That's going to be in October 14, 15. So we have that stuff going on. And then we got a class actually in Benton, Kentucky. A good friend of ours who we go do knife forging with, Fred DePritt, DePritt Forge. He's hosting us here in July, and so yeah, we're just working through those things, and I'm taking some training. Actually signed up for the first Combatives Association Summit down in Florida in September. So I'll be
Yeah.
down there as an attendee and see what we can glean there, and also see some of my good friends and Craig Douglas and Cecil Birch and those guys. So, um, but yeah, we're just gonna keep at it, man, and just try and reach the masses and hopefully help people. And that's the biggest thing we want to do is just be able to help people and guide them on this path.
Such a fantastic goal, man.
Thanks, man.
And
Thanks.
I wish you the best of luck too with it. Absolutely.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
so if anyone wants to get a hold of you, if anyone has any questions or if they're, looking at your calendar, your schedule, how can people get a hold of you? What can they use to keep up with you?
So you can hit us on the website, which is www.personalsurvivalsolutions.com. That has the schedule on there. You can sign up if there's a class you want. There's a area in there that you can go and if you have questions, uh, plus mine and my wife Callie's, because like I said, she really runs the business. I got to give her a shout out because she's the one that makes all this happen. She really does. I couldn't do it without her, and she does a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't see. She takes photos and videos, all the classes, and send them out, as a training aid to students. And she allows me to do this. But so yeah, I just wanted to give her a shout out there. But our numbers are on there. You can call us, send us a message. We are on Facebook at Personal Survival Solutions, Instagram, uh, LinkedIn, and we have a YouTube channel, Personal Survival Solutions. It doesn't have a lot of context on it right now. That's one of our projects is giving us some more robust uh, content on the YouTubes, if you will. But yeah, any of those you can reach out to us, and then we've got our personal Facebook pages and stuff like that.
Sounds fantastic. If you're listening to this or if you're watching this, I took notes on where we could find Shane. All you have to do is look in the description for the show, and you'll be able to see links to all that stuff. So yeah, go out and see this man. Go to Protective Survival Solutions. Shane is locked on. Okay,
Personal survival solutions.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, man.
Personal Survival Solutions.
It's been a long week already.
Man, Shane, this hour just flew by. Thanks a bunch for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, I'm humbled and honored, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was my pleasure. It was my honor. And folks, if you're watching or if you're listening, I just want to let you know how much we appreciate you spending your time with us. You could have spent your time with your family. You could have spent your time earning some extra cash, but you're spending it here with us. And I just want to let you know how much we really appreciate it. Thanks for watching or listening, and welcome to Memphis.
Excellent.